That's so funny. I'm telling you, Les, right now we're so aligned because it's our spirit guides, whatever the dimensions we can't see around us, because you like cut out and then literally I got this thing, alarm thing saying you have someone, from our ring camera, you have someone at the front door. There was nobody at the front door. We got people playing jokes on us, our ancestors.
I think they're trying to let us know that I'm telling you, you are so on the path. I just can't believe it.
Thank you so
So,
much. I'm so excited. This is great. Okay, so we talked about the polyvagal theory. One thing that you talked about in your presentation, chronic pain through the lens of the polyvagal theory, is you talked about how we have our body responds to three worlds. Our what is it? External, internal, and in between. Do I have that right?
So inside, outside, in between.
Yes. What does that mean?
Yeah, so basically, and that's what the polyvagal theory is. It's the science of feeling safe. And so when you don't feel safe inside, outside, or in between, it activates the autonomic nervous system into a state of fight or flight. And again, as I mentioned, when you cannot fight or flee from something in your life, a thought, an emotion, a sensation, work stress, finances, poor relationships, difficult bosses or colleagues, or just children in general. So all that life stuff, when we cannot fight, it basically starts to produce symptoms in us. We tend to notice more flare-ups. We tend to notice that we have more urges, and all those things. And we notice depression and just all of that mental health stuff. And so what I'm saying is that the brain or the nervous system is basically, the brain and the body is what I call, and all the nerves in between is called the nervous system. It's basically trying to answer one question: am I safe or not? And that's what this is about. Am I safe or not with my thoughts? Do I have the skills to respond to my thoughts and emotions and physical sensations? Do I have the skills to deal with an overstimulating environment, kind of like what we've been talking about as far as the drive-through and all the social media? Am I safe or not with the person I love, who I'm actually involved with, or with my children or my friends or my family? So basically, the three worlds, the nervous system, and this might surprise the audience. I know it surprised me when I got the data on this. Believe it or not, when you meet someone, in half a second, not a second, but a millisecond, your brain's made a decision whether they're safe or not. And then your brain starts to scan for their facial expressions, their tone of voice, their attitudes, just even when they're looking at you, they're looking down. Your brain already, beyond those seconds, have made a decision: not safe. But in half a second, when you walk by someone, notice what your body feels like. Your brain has made a decision. So your brain, your nervous system, that is scanning the three worlds: inside, outside, in between, and asking one proverbial question: am I safe or not?
Oh my gosh. That's so fascinating. Because when I started doing my work and stuff, I know I was always in a rush, always never had enough time, and when I started kind of like looking at quantum physics and about the concept of time and stuff, so I started saying I have all the time in the world. But when I would start getting back into that rush and I want to start dropping things, that's definitely my clue. Like, I don't feel like I'm safe. I don't feel like when I read something about the brain's job is to keep you safe. It doesn't care if you're happy. It could care less. It's brains. But the thing is, it thinks there's a lion in the room still when there's not. And so you have to reprogram it and teach, decondition stuff, from childhood and things and all kinds of things. But what I would do is I would stop when I would start rushing and dropping stuff. That's like my clue to stop. Don't move forward, stop. And I would literally say out loud, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. I love that. It's just so beautiful. That I just love it. So and you were talking about people, like we're around people. So when I got divorced, I took a whole year off for myself to really just find my own worthiness and heal, because I knew I'm gonna probably go attract the same person I go date before, And what's funny is when I started dating the type of person I would date in high school. But it was like never working out. And then I was like in a brief relationship, And I was reading something about the dysregulated nervous system and how you can't trust your like attraction to people because it's your dysregulated
Yes.
nervous system, which is from childhood, and you can't trust it. And I was like, huh? And so then I was
Yeah.
brushing my teeth less, and I started thinking about the guy that I was, wasn't being consistent and all this stuff. And I started breathing fast. I said, oh my gosh, my nervous system is dysregulated just thinking about him. Then I went to the grocery store, and there was a guy there that was very similar to that type. And I started breathing fast again. And I was like, what is this? I
Wow.
go to another store, same type of guy. And I said, okay, what is this? And so as I start driving home, and I said, show me what it is. And then I realized it was like some trauma from,
Wow.
having sex at an early age and all this stuff, trying to get my needs met with that same type of guy.
Yeah.
And I was floored because it really is true. We are dysregulated nervous system, that attraction, those kinds of things. You can't
Yeah.
trust it. It's not true. It
It
thinks it's safe,
is.
but it's not.
It is. And we have a saying, and I have a saying in psychotherapy and train my residents to say this. It's weird. You said it beautifully. It is the nervous system, and it's asking, am I safe or not? How about we put it into a practical sense, a statement here? We gravitate towards what we're most familiar with. So that's an unconscious process through the nervous system. The nervous system, as you know very well as a medical professional, and also someone who is, like I said, you're very intuitive. You're really kind of what we call a true healer, in the sense that you're not just, because you're trained medically, but you're also bringing psychology. You're bringing a greater transcendence, a greater sense of, I don't know, but there is.
Yeah.
And so you're really bridging a lot of
Thank
different
you.
mechanisms. Yeah, and that truly is a healer, someone who is open. Someone who's rigid and closed doesn't quite get this, but what you're describing with the relationships is exactly what happens to us in 80-90% of our daily life. Everything is automated because the brain bases our decisions and reactions on the past. This is why the past frequently shows up in the present. The polyvagal basically says this, that when your nervous system senses danger, it lets the past. So the reason we have bad feelings and breath, all of that, somatic sensations, all five senses gets activated when the past shows up in the present. So your breathing is a simple one, right? So you notice that the tactile, the breathing is unusual. You might notice your pupils may get dilated, just a variety of different changes. It's because your brain says, me no safe. And at that point, you have, check this out, you have 90 seconds to do a corrective emotional experience.
What?
90 seconds, yes. So when you feel a mood shift or tension shift in you, when I say 90 seconds, if you can grab your surfboards, and whether that's an urge for addiction to use, an urge to kind of like, I need to just say something which will not be helpful in that moment, or, just anything. So when you feel strongholds of negative thoughts, painful sensations in your body, includes emotions and physical pain, when you have something that shows up that's very intense, and yours is a great way, is the breathing changes. When something has shifted in you, you have 90 seconds if you can do a corrective emotional experience, and you will retrain the brain.
I love that. Wow.
So
That is awesome. 90 seconds. I love it. Because like with my techniques of like with anxiety, I always,
yeah.
I call it my frenemy anxiety,
Yes,
because
good.
I always tell them like it's there to show you places you need to heal. It's your body's way of purging something. And when we're in childhood, our brain's not developed, so our body's
Yeah,
like holding stuff. But as our ego brain wants to know why this is happening,
yeah,
like you ever have like a really good day, and then all of a sudden you're like having anxiety out of nowhere, but you don't realize the things that your subconscious has picked up all day long.
yeah.
But I'll tell, what you resist will persist. And so if
Yes.
you're saying, I don't like this anxiety, I can't handle it, well, you won't, and you can't, and you're going to get more. And
Yep.
so I'll tell clients, because this is things that have worked for me, because sometimes you don't even realize you're in it until it's like 2 hours later, and you're like, why am I overthinking and having all this, like I'm cleaning like a crazy person, what is happening, and I'm breathing fast. But if you can't figure it out, or it doesn't matter, you don't always need to know the answer.
Correct.
But I'll tell people, and if things don't work, if the breathing doesn't work, I'll say, you know what I'll do? And they'll go, what? And I'll go, I'll ask for more. Bring me all the anxiety, bring me all the anxiety, bring me all the anxiety, bring me all the chaos, bring me all the uncertainty, bring it. And then and then it goes away because you step
Yeah.
into your power, you're
Yes.
not fighting it, you're like surrendering to it, because
Right.
we try to do all these things to try to get rid of it. All of these things,
Yes.
toxic, whatever, it doesn't matter. Instead of just, I mean, even like meditation, like we do all these things instead of just surrender.
Yes, I think it's beautifully said. That, and honestly, you just the way you described that is in chronic pain and trauma, and even in addiction. Let's just kind of house it everything in one system, which is the nervous system. When something difficult shows up, I like to use basic things. When a difficult thought, like a negative thought, an old memory shows up, like a flashback, or a negative thought that's recurrent, right? When a difficult thought, difficult emotion, right, shows up, and or a physical sensation that just really grabs you, like a panic attack that shows up at pounding chest. When that shows up, you have 90 seconds to have an accredited. You're like, oh my gosh, what if it's not? No, I'm just using this. I'm using science. Brain science shows us that when we have a strong shift inside of us or triggered by something outside of us, and we notice this shift in us, 90 seconds is basically, if you can just be with it without trying to do the tug of war, go away, I want good stuff. Go away, I want good stuff. I want to get rid of it. When you can stop the tug of war with your mind and body and just be in the middle of the tornado with your technique, just that, as simple, it is very powerful. That take 5. Absolutely. One of the techniques I would encourage you and others to do is, some people may not be able to hold their breath as long, or they get kind of confused. I was working with this
Yeah.
This accountant. He's like, numbers, 5 in, 5 out. No, I can't do that. I'm like, okay. He said, that's
That's
activating.
amazing.
So I said to him, it's funny, it always happens. So what I tell them is this, so in that session, I'm like, can you just take a gentle breath as if you're smelling a rose? Pause. Now, as you breathe out, can you make the pinwheel move, or as if you're blowing dandelions? And all this while, I have them tapping.
I love that.
And so that in of itself is for 90 seconds, if you can do that. Now, someone's like, I'm not going to rub my chest because I'm out in public. And so you don't have to do that. You can also ground yourself by rubbing your fingers, maybe going in a left circle. Make it more inconspicuous. And if you're on Zoom like this, if I'm anxious, I'll take my hands, place them in my thigh, lefty-loosey. The brain and the mind has programmed things. Anything that opens often goes. You open a soda bottle or cap this way. You open a door, usually left. And so left often means exiting. So if you take your hands, place it in your thigh, move in a gentle, slow, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So move in the left circle on your thighs, very gently, and slow your breath down.
That is, I love it. And I love how you're not rubbing your chest, you're tapping your heart.
Exactly.
That's
but I'm doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you, because I mean, when people have had chronic pain, they're at their ends rope. Like they're so tired of it, and they're tired of all the surgeries not working, all the failed surgeries,
Yeah.
and then the infections and and then, never getting that answer. And I assume by the time they get to you, they're pretty frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
I'm laughing.
okay, so this is my question for you. So I mean, by the time they get to you, they're just so over it. They want something, but they, can't believe anything's going to work. How do you like navigate that conversation with someone who like is listening to this saying, what, this polyvagal, a ladder, a breathing, tapping the heart? Like, how do you express that and deliver this beautiful gift that we have within our bodies? How do you convince them, or how do you relay that to them?
I treat a lot of physicians, just to let you know.
Oh, interesting.
I treat a lot of physicians and nurses, so a lot of medical providers.
I love
a
that.
handful of therapists and psychologists. It's really intriguing. And my best one I can explain to you was an orthopedic surgeon, the very person that cuts into you when you have back pain. And he basically had some basic herniations, which, and again, I call it kisses of time. Ultimately, so how do I do it? I basically don't convince them. I tell them it's okay. I said, so I'll explain to them what my treatment model is, using the polyvagal theory and several different techniques. And I basically ask them, is on a 1 to 10 scale, where's your belief? and what I just explained, that the mind body has a connection, or the brain body has a connection. And most physicians go like, yeah, I believe it, but 10 being extremely, I believe it. They'll say maybe I have about a 3 or a 4, and I often tell them what stopped, what do you need to experience? So it's motivational interviewing is what I do. What do you need to experience to shift your belief that there is an emotion component to this, that if we can dial that down, we can calm your nervous system down, your healing is going to begin. And I also ask them, what do you need to experience? Not what do you need to do? What do you need to hear? What do you need to
Mm.
experience? And they said, well, if I can feel a shift in it, I'm like, great, can you drop into your breath now? And I will do it with them, tapping the chest. And I said, now I want you to focus on the pain. And I use a technique, which has been now recently published last year in September of 2021 in the famous journal, medical journal, which you're familiar with, the audience may not, called JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association. It's kind of like creme de la creme. They published a study called pain reprocessing therapy, PRT. And the technique they use in there is very mindful based, that you feel the sensation, notice the size, shape of it, remind yourself that you're safe, and then have a positive feeling associated with it. For example, if you're burning pain in your legs or feet, remember the last time when you were in a hot tub and you were just relaxing, that burning, so there's a positive sensation. So ultimately is I help someone shift their beliefs about why they have pain, not through education. I could educate people till kingdom come,
Yeah.
but when they experience, and then they often go like, oh, so I said, how did you feel when I did the somatic tracking, or just have them tap the chest or breathe? They notice sort of a reduction, and then they say, well, is it better now? They're like, yeah, it's a little bit softer, but they do the YB syndrome. Yes, but. And so like this, it's not going to last. I'm going to get up here and it's going to go away. I'm like, everything starts with the beginning and a committed practice to change your nervous system. So I say to them, the best way to change your nervous system is practice. Practice is the drive changer of your nervous system.
You are speaking my language. I love that. I love that. After I, recovered from, long hauler COVID symptoms, I thought I was burned out in healthcare and all that stuff. And I cut my hours way back and I was like, I hate healthcare. I want to get out of this. And then working PRN just basically as needed,
Yeah.
float me around. I realized, it's not healthcare. It was just a particular very acute psychiatric unit I was working on where everybody's really aggressive.
Yeah.
And so, but returning back to work, I mean, I basically sort of reinvented myself because my approach with my clients was different. It wasn't just me listening to their story and trying to give them a medication. I just do it the same way every time now. They'll start telling me stuff and I share my story with them.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it basically just kind of equals out stuff. And they're, because we all put people on pedestals, right? This is the one as the one with the power, and then you have all kinds of other societal dynamics to it. But
Right.
so having that conversation is, oh, okay. And then, just like kind of with you is they'll ask, well, how do I do this? And I'm just like, it's a daily journey. You do
Yeah.
it one step at a time. You do it through one emotion at a time. I tell them your uncomfortable emotions, your reactions to people are your keys to your healing. That's where you're going to heal,
Yeah.
is through
Beautiful.
the fear. And I tell them, run towards it,
Yeah.
run towards it as fast as you can.
That's beautiful. I want to mention something beautiful you said there, and the audience may have missed it, was that this is part of the polyvagal theory. So there are 3 principles. Neuroception, which means am I safe or not? The brain constantly scans inside, outside, in between. Neuroception. Another concept of the polyvagal theory, which talked about was the hierarchy of the autonomic nervous system: safe, stress, shutdown. But a key component that put Porges on the map was that when you, the provider, this is the key part, you get such a pleasant way, and you got such a, let me just say this to you, you're so real. You're so
Thank you.
real. You're like,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I heard, yeah, I got scared, as opposed to, no, you're wearing a white lab coat and, I have all this knowledge, and, and you've got that attitude, as you would say, the ego mind, right? So that attitude we have, that chip on our shoulder.
Yep.
That's why I like people to call me Les.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
And you have a way of presenting. So this is the thing that I'm teaching physicians, and a good colleague of mine, David Hanscom, who's a back surgeon, basically teaches physicians is when you smile at a patient, even though it's difficult, when you actually have eyes of compassion and your
Mhm.
tone of voice is paced and even, and you actually pause more than you actually speak. And you kind of do it. And yes, you're in the healthcare, you got to keep busy.
Yes.
However, just that few seconds, remember what we talked about? In half a second, they've made a decision whether you're just one of them. They'll be biased. They'll see a wide lab coat. They'll have an attitude. They're like, you're just going to talk about medications. And here you are talking about changing your lifestyle, changing how you approach difficult things. You're kind of odd, a different medical provider. But your smile, your pace, your expression, it's called co-regulation. We
Mm,
can help another nervous system feel safe by how you show up for them. That's key.
I love that. Co-regulate. I did not know that's what that was called. I had no idea. I just know
You've been
that
doing it.
that's so mind blowing, Les. It's just full circle moments.
Yeah,
Gosh, all these circles. Wow, that is mind blowing. And I love that you're teaching other providers this, because that's definitely missing in healthcare, is that co-regulation piece.
yeah,
Because you touched on something. We don't have time. Like that's something I was saying the other day, like, between the emails and the Skype and
yeah,
text message calls and all the mandatory educational things. Oh, I got to
yeah,
renew my CPR,
yeah,
and then we have 5 mandatory meetings, and I haven't even talked to one patient, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
and I'm just like, where does we actually get to do patient care, and
yeah,
so and you have these meetings about metrics, and I'm like, why are we not talking about a patient,
yeah,
so I just know that has just, it's shifted the way I approach my treatment,
yeah,
because there is this conditioning, with chronic pain and all kinds of things that give me a med, it's going to work. But when you're on 5 different meds at the max
yeah,
doses, that's sort of a clue that something needs to shift.
yeah. Exactly. And most people don't know how to do this. And I love your simplicity and practicality is start somewhere. And the breath is always the easiest to start. Again, so
Mhm.
and if you don't like meditation, that's fine, but give it a go. Try 1 minute, try 30 seconds, but the breath is always with you. And it is, again, the remote control of the autonomic nervous system. You
The
get to
breath
influence
is
your
all the
system.
breath is always with you. I love
Yeah,
that. I'm going to use that too. Thank you so much. Well,
yeah,
Les, I appreciate you coming on my podcast. I would love to do more episodes on this, because this is truly groundbreaking for people with chronic pain,
yeah,
trauma, and I mean, this is just gonna heal and help so many people that just feel helpless, shame, all of this stuff. And your work, I'm so glad that we're aligned right now. I'm so glad I
yeah.
reached out to you. I'm just have so much gratitude right now. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking about chronic pain through the lens of polyvagal theory. Before we end, can you give our listeners and viewers, where all your social media sites and your website and YouTube and stuff?
Sure, absolutely. And just one note to you is, again, you were on this path already, but you didn't know, and you're finally here. So,
I just love it. We were
I,
all on that polyvagal path. Like, I had
yeah,
no idea. This is
yeah.
just so great day.
Then fantastic. And for those of you who want to kind of connect with me, you can go to Les Aria, and that's ARIA PhD.com. I need to update a few things there, but you'll be able to contact me. Another three other social media stuff you could is my YouTube channel called Mindfulness, and it's MYNDFULNESS Mindfulness channel. So take a look at that on YouTube. I also have a website for the pain recovery program called Menda, www.menda.health. So take a look at that. And I've started to dabble with Instagram. So I'm not one of those young Twitter folks that always put things up, but I've got a couple of messages there, kind of like what you heard today. Some of the messages are there just to remind you. So it's Dr. Les at Dr. Les Aria as my handle for Instagram. So there you go.
And not to be confused with the Las Vegas hotel, right? Yeah.
I tried doing that when I was in Vegas for the pain conference. They kicked me out. So.
Talking about, oh my God, talking about the Vegas nerve. That's not about Las Vegas. That's funny.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I mean, I'm going to have all your information in my show notes so people can go find paths and tools and techniques to healing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much, Les. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.